You does not need a large range of different platforms like Mac OS, Windows, Linux, Unix. It can also use a lot of embedded operating system like Windows CS. The SQLite model in the Python provides a simple and convenient way to interact with the SQL database. Ascending order means it will take the employee ID, which is a primary key, ascending from 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. It will sort till the n employees. Hello everyone, welcome to the one more session on Python programming for 4th semester B.Ca student. Myself Induje, Faculty of Computer Science Department, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. In this today's session, we are going to discuss one more very important feature of Python, that is how to connect or how to create a database using a Python. So what we are using in Python to create or connect the database is called Sqlite. So we are going to discuss about Python Sqlite in this today's session. Okay, let us start. What is Sqlite? Sqlite is an embedded relational database management system. Why it is called relational database management system? Because all the tables in the database are related to one and another. Without any relation, you cannot able to access the data from one table of data to with the another table of data using a primary key or using a foreign key. Similar, that's why we call it as a relational database model. All the table of particular database has to have one or the other relationship with the tables to each other. And then it is self-contained. What do you mean by self-contained? We can create by self. We can create the database. And serverless, we don't have any centralized server when we are dealing with the SQLite. Okay, and then zero configuration, we no need to do the configuration or install that into the system and do the system configuration when we are connecting or creating the database using the SQLite. Then what it provides a transactional SQL database engine. It provides a transactional SQL database engine to provide the connection between the front end and to the back end. Then what is special in that? Sqlite is a open source. Hope all of you know what is open source. We need not to pay anything to download or to install the Sqlite to our system. It is free of cost. It is open source. Then we need a zero configuration. Once we have installed, we no need to go with some system configuration to make it work. It can work directly. It can work on any platform, either for the Windows, for the Linux, for the Mac, or any platform. It can work directly. Then self-contained standalone transactional relational database. It provides a transaction between the each relational database. Unlike other SQL database, what we have studied in the previous semester, database, SQL database, we are using the servers there. A centralized server. This SQLite does not have a separate server to process the data. To reply back with the query or to create the data, we are not storing any data in particular server. It is a serverless database. Where this serverless database means what it does read and write directly to the ordinary disk file. We are not storing the data somewhere in particular system. We are reading and writing to the disk itself. That is called as serverless database. What are the features of SQLite? As we have discussed, it is an open source. SQLite is totally free, open source. It is free. We can use however and whenever we want. SQLite is open source, so no license required to work on it. We don't have any licensing password or something when we are installing it. We can directly use this. SQLite is serverless. We have already explained you what is a serverless. SQLite does not require a different server process or the system for the operation. For doing any operation, it does not require separate server to store the data. Then SQLite is very flexible. Flexible means what? We can use as when we wanted. It facilitates you to work on a multiple database at the same session at the same time. Flexibility, providing same features at the same time for many users. That comes with the flexibility. And configuration is not required. We have already discussed this also as a feature of SQLite. Configuration, we need not to do any system configuration when we are working with this SQLite. SQLite does not require a configuration, no setups or no administration required. So that is some of the features. Following the same, what we have is SQLite is a cross-platform DBMS. As just now I mentioned, it can be worked in the different platform, cross-platform. Windows is one platform, Linux is one platform, Mac is one platform. Like that, you can work with the different platform also. You does not need a large range of different platforms like Mac OS, Windows, Linux, Unix. It can also use a lot of embedded operating system like Windows CS. Since it is an embedded database management system, it can work with the cross platforms also. Next, what we have is storing our data is very easy compared to SQL. In SQLite, storing the data is very easy, provides a efficient way of storing the data, and provide a last feature what we have is it provides a large number of APIs. What is API? When we are putting the query and we are getting the answers, how this communication is done? This communication is done using the APIs. Hence, this SQLite provides a large number of APIs. It is very easy. SQLite provides a large number of APIs for the large range of programming language. For example, it can use these API can be used for .NET package, or it can be used for the Java, PHP, Objective-C and Python. Different languages API can be designed using the SQLite database management system. So these are all some of the features of SQLite. Next, see what we are currently working on, that is SQLite 3 model. In SQLite, we have a different version. We are mainly focusing on SQLite 3 version. What this model exactly does and how we can connect using this model and how we can create the database using this model, thus we are going to see in this session. The SQLite model in the Python provides a simple and convenient way to interact with the SQL database. This particular model provides a connection between the database and then the Python. It allows you to perform the various database operations, such as what all the database operation we have: create a table, insert the value into the table, delete the table, drop the table, or querying anything to the database. All the operations we can do by using the 3 model. Here an overview of SQL 3 model and its functionality. What all the functionality and overview, how we are going to create. What we have to do first, we have to import this particular model SQLite 3. How to do that? By using the keyword import. By using the keyword, and we have to give the model name. What is this? This is a keyword to import any file into the Python programming, and this is a model what we are using for providing the connection. So this is what we have to do, and then after importing that, what we have to give? We have to give the connection, connecting to the database. How we are going to provide the connection? What is a connection? To establish a connection of the SQL database, you should use a connect function. Which function we are using? We are using the connect function. Here the syntax what we have. This is a syntax how we can provide the connection for SQLite 3 model. Connection is a variable. Connection is a variable. So for that we are calling SQLite 3 model. What is this? Model or object, I can say. Using this object, using the dot operator, I am calling this function, which is a function. Connect is a function what we are calling. And what is we are connecting for? We are connecting for database. We are connecting for database. So we need to provide which database we are connecting. We need to provide the name of the database. This is our the syntax for providing the connection. What is the first step? First step is to import that particular SQLite 3 model. After importing that model, we have to provide the connection. Okay. How to provide the connection is given with this syntax. Then after providing the connection, we have to create one cursor. Where exactly to create? So that is a creating cursor. That is a third point what we have, third step what we have to do. That is creating the connection. After establishing the connection, you need to create the cursor object to execute the SQL statement. Why we are creating the cursor? To execute or to write the SQL statement, we need to create the cursor and interact with the database. The cursor object always allows you to execute the queries, fetch the results and perform the database operation. All the database operation what we have mentioned previously that can be executed by with the help of cursor object. Okay, how to create the cursor object? So here also this is a variable. This is a variable what we are taking as a cursor. After creating the variable, when we have created the variable for the connection, right? Using this connection with the dot operator, I need to call the function cursor. Cursor is what? Again a function which is there present in the model SQLite 3. Okay, so this is a syntax for creating or this is a syntax for creating the cursor. Right, first the variable, which variable you want as a cursor, that variable name, and then the connection. What is this connection? This is a variable which is created for using the connect function. Okay, after that with the dot operator we need to call cursor function. This cursor function allows you to execute the queries and then the operation of database. After that execute, what we have is querying the database. Once we have imported, once we have connected, once we have created the cursor, now you can do any operation you want on the database. So how to do? To retrieve the data from the database, you can execute and select the query. What function we are using to do any operation? We are using the execute function. What function we are using? We are using this execute function. How to call this execute function? By using the cursor object. Lastly, we have created the cursor object, right? So using that cursor object, we are supposed to call this function execute. What we are supposed to pass is in a parameter within this execute function, whichever the operation I want to do. I want to create, I want to insert, I want to delete, whatever the operation is, that has to be given as a parameter for this execute function. Clear what all the steps to have a connection with the SQLite and in the Python. First, import SQLite model 3. After importing, give the connection, provide the connection between the Python and then SQLite 3. After connecting, create the cursor object. After creating the cursor object, try to execute the queries, whatever you want, or the you can do any operations of the database management system. That's how we can. This is an example where we are select from employee. What is employee? Employee is a database name, right? Employee is a database name. We are selecting everything, star represent everything from employee. Rows is equal to cursor dot fetch all. Fetch all is one more function or the one more method that fetch all the rows of that particular table, right? So that is how we are going to access the data from the database. After this, what we have to do? We have to print all the rows. That's why we have given one statement called print rows. How long we have to print? How long? This for loop executes such long we have to print all the rows of the table. That's why this for loop is provided here. Next, what we have is SQL closing connection. Once we have created cursor, we have executed one query. After executing the query, we have to close the connection. Very important point in SQLite is everywhere, whenever you create, you have to close the query. Okay, that's what we are doing, closing the connection. After you have done with the database operation, it's important to close the connection using what? Using close function or the close method of the connection objects. Okay, how we are going to execute or how we are going to call that particular method? We have to give this connection dot close. What is a connection? This is a variable when we have created the connection between the database. So connection dot close function or close method we have to call. These are all the basic steps involved in using the Sqlite model to interact with the Sqlite database in the Python. Clear? What is the first one? First one is to import. Second one is to create connection, and third one is to create cursor object, and fourth one is to execute, and fifth one is to close the connection. So these are all what? Steps for providing the interaction in Sqlite. Hope all of you clear with the syntax, how to do with all the 3 or 5 steps of providing the connection. Then what are the methods we are using in Sqlite? As we have already seen, what are the methods we are calling when we are going with the step-by-step way of connecting. The first thing what we have is import, right? Import SQL model. Then after that what we have is connect model, connect method, then to provide the connection. Then what we have is cursor. Cursor is a object used to create or used to execute the operation of the database. Cursor connect is a method, cursor is a method, execute is a method, and then fetch all is a method that is called to fetch all the rows of the table, and then close is a method. Why we have used the close method? To close the connection what we have established using the connect method. So these are all some of the methods what we have using in the Sqlite model and the methods. So let us see the syntax for each Sqlite method. How to call? Import Sqlite 3. First step. After that, what we are doing here, we are giving this database.db with the name database name. We are assigning this value into the one variable called database name. After importing, what we are trying to do, we are trying to establish a connection between the SQL in Python. So how to do? It is a variable connection is equal to what we are calling the model Sqlite 3 and one function or the method connect, and here what the database name is giving, we are giving this database name. Okay, what after this connection, if connection establishes, then what we have to do, we have to create the cursor. For creating the cursor, this variable connect variable dot, we have to call the method cursor, which is an inbuilt method in the Python. After this, what I have to print? I have to print one message called database is created. If there is a no connection, we fail to establish the connection with the SQLite database, then it will go to the exception. It is a exception handling syntax, right? So it will go to the exception. What we are printing here in the exception, if it is not done, then we have to go for printing something that something goes wrong and something went wrong. Right? We have to print the statement, and hence the connection is not established. After that, what we have to do, if we have to do the connection. If this connection is established, then what we have to do, if connection is established, then we have to close the connection. This is what the code in the Python to provide the connection between the database. Then how to create the table? How to create the table in the Sqlite model 3? To create the table in the Sqlite we have to follow the same create table keyword, but before using a create table keyword, we have to give the execute function. We have to call the execute function. So same create table. What is a create table? Create table is a keyword what we are using. Then we have to give the table name of the table, and how many columns are there in that particular table. As when we are doing with the normal SQL, same number of tables, name of the column, which data type it belongs to, and whether it is a primary key or not, we are supposed to mention. Let us see the example here. What we are doing, we are using a keyword create table. What table we are creating? We are creating a employee table, right? In the employee table, how many attributes are there? Employee name, employee ID, employee age, and employee city. So what we are doing? ID. Employee ID is of what type? Which data type? Integer data type, and it is a primary key for that particular table employee. Right. After that, we have a name. Name is of which data type? It is of the character data type. Here we don't have a character, we call it as a text data type. So string or the text data type. Then age again is of the integer. It is not either the primary key or not even the foreign key, because it is a first table what you are creating. So we have to give the attribute name as well as a data type of that particular attribute. Age is of which type? Is of the integer data type, and city is of the or address of that particular employee will be of the text data set. This is how we are going to create the table in SQLite module 3. Next, what is the operation we have? After creating the table, we have to insert some values into the table. How we are going to insert that values? We have to insert that values using the insert into syntax. Insert into the table name, and then the what values we are going to insert. That's how we are going to insert, as equal to as how we are created or how we are insert the values in the normal SQL. But only difference what we have, before this statement what you are providing, before this statement we have to use cursor, which we have created one object, right? Cursor dot execute. Right. Within this execute function, we have to pass these values as a parameter. Okay, that is a major difference what we have while creating and inserting in SQL. Everything, every query or every operation what you are doing, that has to be preceded with this execute function. All the queries or all the operations what we have, that has to be given as a parameter for the execute function. The syntax is same. Insert into particular table name, and after table name, what all the columns we are inserting in, column name or the attribute name, and whichever the values we are inserting for that particular column, that has to be given. Here the same employee example or employee table what we have created, we are inserting some values into the employee table. So insert into, which is a table name, employee table name. For what all the attributes we are inserting? ID, name, age, and then city. 4 attributes or 4 values you are supposed to insert. So here, what is the ID? 001 may be the ID. And name. What is the name? John. Age 25, and which city he is in? He is in New York. So this is how we are going to insert the values. We can repeat the same thing for how many rows we want, how many employees we want, we can create those many employees. Then update operation. If you want to update anything in the database, same syntax we have to follow. What the syntax we have to do? Here cursor dot execute. Within this we have to pass this parameter as a pass this condition as a parameter. What is update condition? We have to update only particular field in the database. So with the respect to what? Where condition we have to provide. Where with the primary keyword. Let us see the example. Here is an example to update the age of the employee. What we are updating? Only the age of particular employee. So what particular employee? We have to give the employee ID. Right. Update. This is cursor dot execute. Within this execute, I am calling this particular function update. Update specify we have to update one particular field in where? In a employee database, and set that particular field to the age 30. Say before it is 28. Now I have to update that age into 30. So age is equal to 30. Updated value. Where? Condition employee ID is equal to 1. What is the employee ID? 1. We have to update. Before it was 28, now it is updated with the employee ID. Age is 30. This is how we are going to execute the update command. And then what we have is delete command. How we can delete the tables or the rows? Exactly, we have to do the same with the delete also. Here also we have to use what? We have to use one cursor, this cursor dot execute. Within this execute function, we have to call this particular table. Delete from employee. Employee, we are deleting what? Particular employee whose ID is equal to 1 from the employee table, and remaining employees will be as it is. We are deleting one particular employee details only. Only one employee who is having the ID is equal to 1. This is how delete function works. And querying data, any querying you want to retrieve the data, you want to access some data, this is a querying method. What we can do? Select. What you have to select? Whichever the data we want, whichever the column or the attribute we want, that we have to select with the where condition. So again here cursor cursor dot execute, and put all this into one parameter. Pass this particular query as a parameter for the execute method. So here is an example, star select from employee. What it is doing? It is displaying all the employee details. Okay. Next what we have is filtering the data. How we can filter the data in the table? So same method, syntax with the where condition. Select whichever the column I want to be displayed and filter all the remaining columns. So column 1 or column 2 or anything, from which table I want to filter, right? Which table name we have to provide, then where condition. Select star from employee is a table name, where the city. Only we are selecting the employee who is from the New York City. Other employees are filtered out. That is the query what we have provided in the employee table. Then sorting the data. We can use this Sqlite model for sorting the data also. How we can sort? By using the order by. Even in the ascending order or in the descending order, we can sort the elements of the table. What is the syntax for that? Syntax, select the column, which column I want to sort, from the table name, which table and which column I want to sort, and which order I want to sort, whether it is in a ascending order or it is in a descending order, we have to sort. This is an example where we have select star from employee ordered by ascending order. Ascending order means it will take the employee ID, which is a primary key, ascending from 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. It will sort till the n employees. So this is what the example of sorting. So these are all some of the operations and how to create the connection between the Python and the SQLite model 3. Thank you.